Everybody, I just wanted to jump on quickly. Excuse the scruffy look today. I've my hair tied up and no makeup on and still got reflection in my glasses, so it's all going a little bit horribly wrong today. Just thought I'd quickly catch up with you about the day 4 of the Free Yourself from Your Feedback fears, and today we were talking about giving feedback. So when I started to put my notes together for today's live, I kind of covered quite a lot, and I thought I'd end up talking for forever, and I've already done quite a few long ones this week, which I thought you'd probably get bored of. So what I'm going to do is do a bit of a check sheet for you, which is a free bonus for being part of the live this week and the challenge. So do me a favour, either PM me your email address or drop me a quick email at tina@avalanchecoaching.co.uk, and I will make sure that I put you on the list to get a copy of the free checklist when I've put it all together for you over the next couple of days. So that checklist will have some phrases for you to use. So those of you that have contacted me this week kind of saying that one of the things that you wanted to kind of cover under the feedback was what to say, because it's hard knowing what words to use, especially if you're giving feedback to employees or performance reviews and things like that. You want to be able to keep it positive, but still get your message across by saying to somebody, you know, that they're not doing very well at their job. So I'm going to put together a nice little list for you, some do's and don'ts that you can use, and hopefully, hopefully that will be good enough to cut the live a little bit shorter for you today. So just very quickly about giving feedback. So the first one is why you should give it. Well, like for all the reasons we've covered on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, the reason for giving feedback is so that people can improve, so people know how they're performing, so people know how things are going, whether or not things they're doing are working for you, whether products work, whether a style that they use is working, all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's important to, the reason why is so that people can meet their targets and achieve a better service. So that's why feedback's important, obviously. When to do it is kind of the next one, and this is really, really important. There is no point giving feedback to somebody months later or even weeks later. Feedback needs to be almost immediately. Where possible, immediately. So if you are in the middle of something and something happened, you need to be able to say there and then exactly how you feel. So if you're a manager and somebody storms into your office and starts effing and blinding and screaming and shouting, pulling them 2 months later and saying, didn't like the way you behaved, that's no good. You need to, deal with it there and then. Exactly the same as you deal with children, and with animals. If you deal with whatever's happening there and then you can nip it in the bud. You can stop it from becoming a problem. If you leave it, it becomes a learned behaviour. It's much, much harder to change. So the biggest thing about when to do it that I would say is you need to do it straight away, or as close to straight away as you possibly can. So if you are a manager of people and you've got 2 or 3 people that are doing really well, again, give them the feedback straight away. It doesn't have to just be negative stuff, positive stuff as well. Positive reinforcement should be given immediately. There's no point telling somebody they did a good job 6 months later, because they're disheartened by then. They've already done loads of hard work for you and feel like you haven't noticed, or that, it didn't mean anything because you never said anything. So you need to make sure that positive feedback as well as negative feedback or constructive feedback is given immediately. So again, within an office environment or working environment, the sooner you can tell them, wow, that's fantastic, thank you for doing that for me, you're a real star, that's brilliant. Or pull them to a side and say, actually, you need to sort yourself out. You need to do it pretty much straight away. Where to do feedback? Privately, if you possibly can. And again, kind of depending what you're saying, but if you're giving somebody constructive feedback, if you're about to tell somebody that they're not very good at their job, you don't do that on team. You don't do that in front of other employees. You don't do that in front of their family when you bump into them at the cinema or something like that. You know, you make sure that it's done in the right environment. Make sure that it's in a private place where if they're going to get upset or they're going to get angry or they've got questions, they can do that fairly. So if you've got some constructive criticism to give an employee, or you're in a shop and you want to give some feedback, you know, don't scream and shout in the middle of the shop. Nobody likes that. No, you know, it gets videoed and plastered all over Facebook and nobody really appreciates it. You just look terrible. So make sure you take the manager to a side and you're giving the feedback, you know, in a more secure environment. Everybody appreciates that a lot more, especially the people getting the feedback. They'd much rather be told privately that there's a problem. Nobody likes being shamed in front of somebody. So a good example of this was in a shop a couple of weeks ago, and a young girl who was serving people, her manager came over and started having a real go at her for being late back from her lunch break or a break of some sort, really tearing into her about how, you know, it's not what's expected and she's letting the team down. And in the end I ended up saying something because it's wrong, and I ended up telling the manager that I thought she was crap at her job and she should be watching what she's doing, because actually she's tearing that poor girl apart. She's making everybody in the queue feel uncomfortable. Nobody thinks she's a particularly good manager now, and actually when people walk away, rather than thinking poorly of that young girl, they're actually all thinking bad of the manager. And yeah, I could have yelled and screamed at her in the middle of the shop, but I didn't. I politely spoke to her across the counter. So she still got the message, and as those of you who know me know that when I have a message to give, it's done in a very constructive way, and that's what I did. I constructively told her that she was crap at her job. And that's what I'm saying, you know, if I'd started to F and blind and scream and shout, I would have ended up just getting booted out the shop myself, which is, you know, not fair to anybody. But actually, as it was, that young girl felt supported by me, I would have hoped. And maybe when she went home and she told her mum that, you know, the old bag who's the manager was yelling and shouting at her in the middle of the shop and she felt humiliated, hopefully she can say, you know, somebody stuck up for me. Because I know if one of my children worked in a shop and their manager was treating them that way, I would hope somebody would stick up for them. So where to do it is just as important as what you're going to say and when you're going to say it. So the other thing as well that you need to consider is oh, hang on, I'm slipping off my sofa as well. If you look, I've got a poorly Jack today and he's sitting with me, so I'm all squished up on the side of the sofa. So some of the most important things you need to think about, just to quickly summarise, is where you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and, you know, make sure that you are able to evidence it, like we covered at the beginning of the week. If you're going to give somebody feedback, make sure that you can evidence that what you're saying is true, that what you're saying is right, and that actually what you're saying has some weight to it. Like we said at the very beginning of the week, you can't pull somebody to a side and say, you know, you're shit because I think you are. You know, it just doesn't work like that. You need to give examples. So when you're giving feedback, make sure you can give somebody an example of when they've done it. So it needs to be immediately, it needs to be privately, and it needs to be evidenced. So they're your three most important things. So for instance, if you were giving an employee feedback because they had been disrespectful in the office, you would take them to one side, either into an office or to a quiet part of the office, and you would say, okay, on Thursday you said this to me and I felt that was really disrespectful. I didn't like the way you spoke to me. It made other people in the office feel really uncomfortable. Therefore, I don't want that happening again. And then you can give a consequence to it as well. You can say, if it happens again, then the next conversation we're going to have will be more formal. Or you can say, actually, it was big enough to be formal now. So then you can say, didn't like the way you spoke to me, and because of that, we're going to have a formal review discussion. We're going to have a file noted conversation, whatever it might be. So You need to do it in a quiet environment or a private place. You need to do it as quickly as possible and as immediate as you possibly can. You need to give an evidence of the time that it was done. Hi AD, how are you? I hope you're doing well, honey. And you need to make sure that you can evidence it. There is no point giving somebody feedback when you can't evidence it and you do it months later. So the worst kind of feedback would be, hiya, actually I was thinking I think you're pretty shit at your job and you should probably leave, because I remember sometime about 6 months, 8 months ago, I remember thinking you were really shit, and I can't remember what it was you did, but you know, you did something and I remember thinking that was really crap. Nobody's going to be able to take that seriously, are they? The same as if you walked into a shop or you went into Tesco's or something and you said to them, you know, oh, I bought a pizza from you about a year ago and it was really mouldy. I want my money back now, but I've got no receipt. They're not going to replace it, are they? You're not going to get anything back. Whereas if you were to go back into the shop and you had a receipt, so you've got your evidence, and you say you bought it that day or the day before, then you're more likely to get your money back. You're more likely to get better customer service. It is exactly the same in any kind of way that you give feedback. So they're the things that are really important that you need to consider when you're giving feedback. Also, you need to consider the way you do it. So the way you do it, not just about kind of the environment that you're in and the evidence in it, but the tone. You need to make sure that you are calm and also you are sincere. There is nothing worse than somebody giving you feedback and it's got a whole ring of sarcasm attached to it, because people just won't take it seriously and you'll just get their back up, especially if you're a manager and you're giving feedback to an employee. The last thing you want to be doing is doing it with a tone of sarcasm. You don't want to be doing it when you're angry, because again, you won't get taken seriously. You go storming into a shop, screaming and shouting. You go into an office environment and you're shouting and screaming. Nobody takes you seriously and you just look really, really silly. So again, you know, make sure that your tone is kept calm and that you are able to kind of communicate well without sort of effing and blinding and just kind of, you know, making yourself look a bit silly. So again, you know, the overall sort of idea of giving feedback to somebody is to make sure it's in a quiet environment or a private place, then it's done at a right time scale, so pretty much immediately or within a few days really, as relevant, that it's done sincerely and that your tone of voice is kept calm and that you're in a good place as well, you're not angry and stressed. And just make sure that everything you say you can evidence, and you've nailed it. That's feedback. That's perfect. You know, that's exactly what you need to do, and that's it. You know, nice and easy, covered like that. All I really need to do to be able to help you further is just give you some examples of some phrases that you can use. But the basic idea of feedback is very simply broken down into those 4 categories. And if you can remember those 4 categories, you can give feedback to anybody. You can say anything to anybody and it'll be listened and it'll be taken seriously and you'll get the right results. You'll either get your refund or you'll get your employee working harder and smarter, and you'll be able to get them from being an underachiever to an achiever or even an overachiever. You know, whatever it is that you're aiming to achieve by giving the feedback, you can get by following those 4 simple rules. So comment below for me if you have any questions or any queries. Like I said, I didn't want to make this live a huge, great big long one, because you can go on forever about this kind of stuff and examples and everything. So what I will do is I will put together a nice, simple cheat sheet for you. So please drop me an email if you'd like a copy of it and I'll get that sent over to you as soon as possible. And as a little bit of an extra freebie to this freebie, if you do want to go over any of the details within the check sheet, I will do a 20 to 30 minute free call with you as well. So a free coaching call, and we can talk over any time you've got some feedback coming up that you might want to just go over how you're going to approach it or what you're going to do. Hi Margaret, how are you? So if you've got some one-to-ones coming up or you've got a review meeting coming up and you just want to quickly go over with me some of the things that you need to say and how you could say them better or how you can get your point across in a more smarter way, then just, you know, drop me a line and we can talk that through. So hopefully this evening's been really useful and you've been able to get something from it. I'll get the cheat sheet over to you as soon as possible as your first freebie, and as a second freebie you can have a 20 to 30 minute call with me as well, just to go over any future queries you've got on that as well. So nice little double bonus for you. Anyway, my throat's really sore and it's all going a little bit dry, so I can't really talk for much longer, losing it a little bit. Hope you have a lovely evening, and take care. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.